Welcome everyone to a not quite Sunday morning edition of the Missing Wolves post-game podcast live stream thing. I'm Andrew Dukowitz, beat reporter for Zone Coverage, and we have some basketball to talk about. Wolves lose to the Spurs 126-123, and I figured, when there's a big game on the schedule, we should probably have somebody that covers the back-to-back Frost Women's Champions. Heather Rule from the Written Rule of Sports Substack. How's it going, Heather?
Good. How are you? How are you doing?
Good. I limped through that introduction so much better than I thought before we hit record. I'm feeling pretty good. But I appreciate you taking time off of the hockey beat to talk some hoops, because part of the reason I want to have so many different guests on this podcast is because there's so many interesting and cool people in the Minneapolis, Minnesota sports beat. And I didn't realize until very recently that you're an acclaimed children's book author. Can you just promote your work for 5 seconds and let people know kind of what you do in the media sphere and why children's books have been a place that you've kind of found a passion?
Yes. The children's books is that was kind of something that stemmed off of one of the other freelance jobs that I was doing. I worked with this company and I was doing stories with them for USA Hockey's website. And they also produce children's books, nonfiction about sports. I've done more than a dozen of them now, just kind of all kinds of different topics. I've done some auto racing ones, Olympics, college basketball, just a whole variety. That's been really fun. I have some more information about that on my website, just heatherrule.com. That's kind of just my online portfolio where I've sort of put up everything that I've done in the freelance world. You gotta hustle and just try to find the next story, next project to work on. So, but yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I know that's something that it's been those have been fun projects to do. I've learned a lot along the way doing those as well.
Oh, 100%. And freelancing, I feel has its perks where, you kind of have your own deadline and can pick your own stories, and it's fun that way. But also you have to rely on children's books and different kind of substacks and forms of ways to make it so it's still possible for you to do it. But what kind of drew you to and I apologize for Wolves fans that are coming in, but I'm just curious, and I host the show, so this is what we're doing. But what kind of led you to covering hockey, especially? Because if I remember, I feel I knew you more as a baseball person, and maybe that's just me not knowing the whole Heather Rule story. But what was kind of the switch to hockey?
So you're correct on the baseball part too. It wasn't necessarily a switch for me. It was always, when I first started becoming a sports fan, baseball and hockey worked out really well because there's not a ton of overlap throughout the entire calendar year. So I kind of just went from one sport to another as a fan. And I worked with the Twins social media team for 9 seasons doing that. So that was kind of my baseball bucket that I had for a while. And then when I wasn't doing that during the season, I was freelance writing, and a lot of that turned out to be hockey. Whether it's covering the Wild or high school, state tournaments, college tournaments, with the World Juniors, then obviously a lot of women's hockey with the Minnesota Frost, and then I just this season launched my Written Rule of Sports Substack covering the Frost. So yeah, it's a good variety of stuff. And being in Minnesota, there's always a ton of hockey to cover at all kinds of different levels. So yeah.
And I feel there's, the Star Trib and the Pioneer Press, I feel do what they can with high school, but for how popular high school hockey is here, it's a good area to fall in. It's a good niche to fall in, Yes, so were you Twin social media admin getting the Polad nasty tweets sent your way, or what did you do with the social crew?
Yeah, not the past couple of seasons, so not this past season, which is probably good because that I feel that's really ramped up some of the Polads and people's opinions about everything. But yes, my responsibility was in game Twitter. So game updates and GIFs and posting videos, and then the score graphics post game and photos, that kind of thing. So yeah, that was mostly what I was responsible for with the Twins. Yep.
So anyone who is mean to the Twins Twitter account from like 2016 to 2024, probably send Heather like an apology of like, hey, I was mad at the Pollads, not the Twitter admin. But we do have basketball to talk about, and we kind of talked about it a little bit before we hopped on here. But just this game kind of had the makings of a stinker, like one of those Wolves just lulls, letdowns that we're used to. 25-point deficit going into halftime. Second quarter was just, I mean, I think even they would agree the second quarter was pretty terrible defensively. But I mean, we get to see the best of Ant with the best of Julius, Jaden, as they kind of storm back in the third and the fourth quarter. I mean, again, I know you cover hockey, so I'm just kind of eager, like dipping back into the Wolves. Like, what is your impression of kind of a game like this and just like this Wolves team overall?
Yeah, about half tired the second quarter, I was almost going to send you a note and say, well, could talk about hockey instead. The Wild had an overtime win today. The Frost had an overtime win last night. And it was nice because, covering hockey so much, the Wild and the Wolves seem to play on the same night a lot, which is going to happen when you have the winter season. But the Wild actually had a 11:30 local our time puck drop earlier today, so they got their game out of the way. So now we can focus on the Wolves tonight. But yeah, it happens a lot, so that's why I'm not as always tuned in to the Wolves as maybe I would like to be, just because of that. But it turned into quite the thrilling game toward the end. I did think it was a little funny too, is that the fans in the arena were just it was a very thrilling game too, but they were just getting so pumped up and the team's getting pumped up. I'm like, well, you guys also blew like a 25-point lead, so I mean, I get it. I but it was just kind of funny. It's like, well, this would have been a bad loss for them, but it was, I mean, to see what Ant did at the end of that game, and even Dante with a couple of those clutch threes as well, because I think he was maybe struggling with shooting a little bit earlier on, but it was just shot for shot, 3 for 3, just one end of the floor to the other, was really just fun to watch. I mean, it was good basketball for sure. And it was, I think too bad that they couldn't quite pull off the comeback, but I think looking back at Ant's night and what he did, his career night, is pretty remarkable as well.
Yeah. And Ant, it's always interesting because when you cover these guys up close, you tend to almost forget that like Ant is one of the top 6 players in the NBA and can score 50 on a really good defense led by, I mean, if Wemby plays enough games, he's going to be the defensive player of the year. So it's always nice to get reminded that like, no, Ant really is this good. Stop focusing on like, maybe he should have sealed off a lane a little bit better for a layup. But I mean, as this game's kind of going down, like Ant versus Wemby kind of started to take its tone in the fourth quarter. What do you kind of make of that matchup, especially for the NBA moving forward?
I think it's a fun rivalry that could be developed. You could see it tonight, and at the end of that, I'm trying to remember if it was the first half or the first quarter when Wemby was hitting those, he couldn't miss from 3 either, and he was kind of dominating. And the other thing I thought was interesting too, because I hadn't really watched much of him before, seeing it when he would go to the line to shoot free throws and the way he holds the basketball and doesn't dribble. I thought, oh, is he gonna like just kind of do like a granny shot up there, just the way he was holding the basketball? But anyway, that was just where my mind went there. But as an aside, but with him and Ant, I think you saw at the end of the game how fun this could be, and just the talent that they both have, and the defense, the shot blocking, everything too from Wemby was fun to watch. And then Ant, he's always entertaining, and the way he was just so clutch at the end with those shots, even the one in the last one he made, whenever it was, they had like a couple seconds left or something, and you thought, okay, this down 4 points, whatever it was. You're like, all right, well, you need the three, but I don't know. And that was kind of a tough spot for him to hit that one, and he still hit that one. So
Yeah. I mean, it's like the clutch time stats. Wemby scores 10 points in the last 4 and change minutes. And you look over at the Wolves side, and Ant has 14 points, 4 of 5 shooting in the last 4 and change minutes. Like, this is going to be something I think in the future. Like, it's going to be a big part of the league. Like, as Jokic and SGA are, 7 and 5 years older than these guys, like it's just hard to see how it's not going to be a huge part of it. I mean, the other thing I kind of wanted to just talk about is Johan, because we, especially Wolves fans, like have been demanding to see Johan Berenger for at least at least up until 3 days ago. Almost every tweet that I have during a game, someone mentions Johan. And I mean, another game where he just looks good. Like, he fouls out. I think everybody that's, everything you hear around the team of, oh, this kid's kind of unexperienced. He doesn't really know where to stand or where to be on certain plays. He jumps at everything. Like, all of that is 100% true. But like, there's just something about him that gives you hope, wouldn't you say?
I think so. And I watched some of him sit the other night in Milwaukee. Was that the first game where he
Yep.
got in? I think he was impressive that night. And tonight, what stood out to me too is a little bit just how he wasn't noticeable. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's a good thing as well, where it's like, well, I haven't really noticed him. And sometimes that's because he's doing his job and he's playing well and not necessarily making the super flashy plays all the time, but just not being a liability at the same time either, and not, oh, well, that was not a good play or something like that. So I think he's been good to watch so far. I, did have to remind myself the other day I was watching, and okay, this isn't the pitcher for the Twins from back in the day with the similar name. Although it did kept throwing me. I'm like, isn't that Juan Darren? Okay, no, it's not. It's a different guy. Like, so there's my joke about that. But I did hear from someone that said, well, yeah, my friends and I in our group chat, we referred to him as Juan Berenger.
Juan
So
Berenger.
I thought that was good. Yeah.
It's funny because you can just tell, like, after he got drafted, like, Wolves PR came out and was like, he says his name is Johan, like the pitcher Johan Santana, like Johan. And then I like put that out in the internet world, and like some French people were like, no, that's not how, like, yes, that's technically how you pronounce it, but like, that's the most American terrible way to do it. It's on, like on switch. And it's just like, why does everybody that comes to Minnesota have to make like a Minnesota reference to have us figure out how to say their name? Like, you can just say yo on. You don't need to say Johan, but it is what it is. I mean, Ren and John both popped in the chat of just saying Johan is such a fun player to watch. I mean, I think the most I like Finch, before they flew down to Houston, I asked him about just Johan and like what popped on the tape, and he kind of smiled and said Johan plays himself to exhaustion. And like I kind of watched that a little bit more tonight, just watching like how much he moves and like how bouncy he is, and like he really does just have a motor that would it just doesn't stop, which this team kind of needs that. It feels like a lot of times they just come into games flat,
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I think you see that with, what so many of their comeback wins too. I think at one point tonight, Jim Pete said that on the broadcast about how, well, they, how many times they've done this before. This is kind of what they do, and sort of their MO of coming in and just kind of a little flat, but then finding it, and Ant, comes alive and makes his shots and puts on a show. But yeah, I think, for him tonight too, without Rudy and then basically without Naz Reid most of the game. I think he came in and did a decent job of what he was supposed to do on the court. And I said, not, super flashy, super noticeable, but in my mind, a lot of times, especially for a younger player, I think that can be really good as well when you see kind of those good flashes, but also, you're not seeing him make a ton of mistakes, which are, going to happen as a young player too. But I thought he was good.
It's honestly like an offensive lineman in football, where it's kind of like you want to hear their name on like the replay of like, oh, look, he tipped that ball for like a rebound, or he grabbed the rebound and did a good outlet pass. Like you don't want to hear him a ton though. Ren has a good point of just Johan got fouled by Wemby and they didn't call it. Yeah, that was tough, especially when they went back on the replay and you could tell Jim Pete was like about to praise Wemby and then was just kind of like, ooh, never, no, I'll just drop this one here.
They didn't quite go back to that. I thought in real time, well, of course, they call so much, right? They call so many fouls. I'm like, well, should there have been something there? I wasn't sure. Was that part of what the tech was for Chris Finch late too? Was he like maybe complaining about that, or was that a different play?
Finch is a salty man, and I think there are just certain things like, hey, my 19-year-old kid's in there and like went for a game-winning or game-tying layup. Like if I don't have his back here, like these are the things that Finch does that like the team loves. Like the fact that he got a tech and it was kind of defending Berenger, like the locker room's going to love that stuff. So I think Finch he lets his steam off in very planned ways.
Yeah.
But I do think it was Berenger related where he was just like, what are we doing here? Like you can't just give the guy a chance to make some free throws. But Finch has done that a few times, whether it's, I think usually it's Ant or Julius like get upset and then Finch kind of blows his top off. But it's also just the politics of a locker room too, of like, I just got to get my guys sometimes, which is so weird in basketball because no other sport really has that. Like you don't see like hockey coaches getting thrown out of games for like picking their guys. You don't see head coaches in football get thrown out of game. Managers, I guess, in baseball, but it's a very basketball specific thing.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. And in hockey, it's more the teammates that are sticking up for the teammates, and like we saw that in the Wild game today. That Buffalo was going after Quinn Hughes and Marcus Foligno got into a fight. Guys are coming, but it's the players that kind of handle it there. Whereas, the coach, they can yell at the officials, but they're not going to get tossed out of the game, really.
Like if Finch gets tossed with 15 seconds left, like probably not the end of the world. If Ant gets tossed with 15 seconds left, then that's a pretty sinking feeling. Heather, I'm going to throw us over to a couple ad reads here. When we come back, I do want to just talk a little Jaden McDaniels. And if chat has any questions, wants to bring anything up, by all means, love the interactions. But first, ad reads. Well, hello. Thank you, Livestream Andrew. This is Ad Read Andrew. And today we have Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, the presenting sponsor for the Missing Links podcast. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling strives to inspire people to follow their ideas, working with respect and understanding to create a quality, tailored result. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, located in Blaine and serving in the North Metro area, is here to help you with your building and remodeling needs. I can say personally, thanks to Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, I have a beautiful deck in my backyard and countless projects that I started, they finished. Get started on your new deck or remodel today by calling Isaac at 763-710-5686. And we're back with another ad read. This time for Pence Homes, the presenting sponsor of Hitting the Hardwood Network. From the best tools and technology to transparency throughout the entire process, Nate Pence and the Pence Homes team is the top choice for buyers, sellers, and is proud to support you and your home ownership goals. Get started today by calling 612-308-1122 or by emailing info@pencehomes.com. couple housekeeping things. Firehawk Construction does have a new phone number. The new one is 651-315-4291. Again, that is 651-315-4291. They also have a Facebook page. So feel free to check that out. I think they have a website as well that are doing kind of open bids for projects now. So if you do want a new deck, the bathroom got flooded during the winter, pipes burst, never hesitate to reach out there. And Nate Pence is still doing a food drive with kind of all of the unrest and craziness in Minnesota, Minneapolis. Him and some of the people from his realty company and his company are still collecting food and donations. You get a receipt on that. All you have to do is email info@Pence Homes, reach out to them on any of the social medias. They are buying food and doing house deliveries for people that might need it, which, you know, I'm a nurse by day, and I can say that, you know, a lot of the elderly people rely on PCAs that are often, you know, immigrants or these people that might be afraid to leave their home because they're in low income neighborhoods. And now the elderly people I see during the day don't have that person to help them get food. So it's not just, you know, supporting kind of who you think you would. There's a lot of different tendrils that go out from that. So again, info@pencehomes.com. If you want to make any contributions to that, donations, help deliver food. I know he's still doing that and would appreciate it. But back to basketball. Ren just brings up that NBA officials hate the Timberwolves, especially Ed Malloy. I think Ed Malloy hates most people. I don't know if there's a fan base that is like a big Ed Malloy fan base, which, I mean, in some ways that might be just Ed Malloy, but I also think you kind of have to be hated in that role if you're good at it. Tonight he missed a couple, and that Finch tech was iconic, but yeah, Ed Malloy. Heather, I did want to get your thoughts on kind of everybody's favorite trollster, Jaden McDaniels, though. Has a massive block on Stefan Castle, excuse me. You can see him saying quite a bit as he's running back on defense. Also, you know, puts up a 20-something point game, is rebounding pretty well all of a sudden. Stats are right here. 23, 5, and 5, goes 50% from the field, 8 of 9 from the free throw line. What's kind of been your Jaden McDaniels experience from the outside this season, though? Is it leaking over into popular culture, like how fun he is, I guess?
I think what I see from him is he's very talented. And tonight, especially, I noticed his just kind of, he has a calmness about him, if that makes sense. That's just the demeanor, something about it. And, you know, I think at one point in the game when the Wolves weren't necessarily, you know, it's kind of like, well, where's the offense coming from? They need to get in their flow a little bit. I mean, Ant was kind of doing his part. I think Jaden was really the first guy I noticed that kind of stepped up and was doing that. And eventually when the Wolves started getting to the line a little bit, you know, he was contributing there. And I think that I didn't look up the numbers. I think the free throw shooting went better than it did. Was it last night?
Yeah.
And I don't think it went for, I was multitasking last night. I think I heard at one point Rudy had an air ball on a free throw. Is that right?
Yeah, he missed the net. It was
okay.
It was bad.
So
and then
that's
he
not good.
to hit the front iron and miss the second one. So
okay. So
yeah,
that's not great.
It was tough.
Yeah. So that was one of the things I noticed. Like, okay, making some free throws. That's always a good sign. But yeah, I think, and similar to what I said about not being noticeable, on McDaniels, some of the things in his career have not been the smartest plays. Punching the curtain always comes to mind.
Yep.
Curtain/wall. And so there's things like that. Sometimes you're just like, oh, man, that was maybe not the smartest decision. So I think with him, I think when he just kind of maybe lets his talent speak for itself and just kind of contributes the way he does, like tonight, I thought he had a really solid game behind Ant. And at one point, I think Jim Pete too said on the broadcast, you know, someone else is going to have to step up and make a shot. That was probably later when Ant was hitting everything and they were going to, you know, really key in on him. But I think McDaniels was that guy, and he has been that guy, and he's been able to step in when needed. So I think he had a solid night.
He's just a fun player. Like, I think people who listen to the podcast know that, like, one of my biggest things with McDaniels is, like, I just wish he believed in himself a little bit more. Like, he probably could score 20 points a night every night, but there's just nights where if he misses the first couple shots, he kind of just goes into, like, I'm going to play really hard on defense and not shoot again mode, which is tough. Transitioning a little bit, Ren just asks, what do we think about Randle not scoring enough and the bench's overall impact? Farah adds after that of just we missed Naz's scoring tonight, which completely agree. I think it's tough, right? Like, you're down Rudy, who isn't an offensive powerhouse, but he gives you 10, 12 points and kind of allows Naz to just be a gunner off the bench. And I think Randle does benefit from some of that Rudy Gobert, like, under the basket offensive rebound threat. Like, you kind of have to keep an eye on him, which when it was Johan in there, I think people were pretty much just ignoring him because he's a 19-year-old rookie that hasn't played very much. So, like, I do think some of it was Rudy being out, then Reed going out. Honestly, like, the bench, Bones had 7 points in 12 minutes. That's kind of where you want it. Like, Jalen Clark was kind of nothing today. And then 3 of their starters played 40 minutes, and I think Dante had 36 minutes. So certainly they could have used more from their bench, but you got to figure, like, if Naz was playing and Rudy wasn't kind of on a rest day, that maybe it would have gone differently. But I mean, Heather, what's kind of your take on it?
There were, especially when they started to have that comeback, there were some, again, my mind went to the similarities with what the Wild, their game earlier today, because they were down a bunch of bodies with injuries. And, in December, they went on this run, and similar thing, they had injuries, but they still found ways to win games. And Wolves nearly did it tonight, right? I mean, because I'm sitting there, okay, Rudy's already out. Naz is basically out tonight. And left the court for a little while, had something about, he always comes back, right? Isn't that kind of his thing? To, like, he'll go out and then he comes back. But still, you don't know until he comes back. Like, okay, what's lingering. And this was his first game back, too, because he had missed a couple. So, I mean, in a way, you feel like, okay, they're a little shorthanded. I hear a lot about, Mike Conley's old. He's not getting any younger.
He certainly is old.
The bench depth, is maybe an issue. So, for them to still have the comeback that they did and nearly win that game after being down 25, where you could very easily have just said, okay, tonight's not our night, and we're going to just kind of pack it up and let's get these other guys in with some minutes. Joe Ingles, he was out tonight too. I know he's a bench guy. He's not in a ton, but that was another name that stood out to me. Like, okay, they have all these guys out. So I think sometimes that resiliency is really fun to see as a sports fan with teams, where that's what's cool about sports, is you don't know what to expect on any given night. When teams go out there and start a game, you think you might know what's going to happen because, oh, well, look, they're out down all these guys, and then look what happened, I mean, they kind of started the script that maybe you thought, like, yeah, this is going to be a problem because they got down in that first half, but then, they totally turned it around and made for a very entertaining game. So, but I think that's what I've heard too, is a little bit with the bench depth is maybe kind of an issue.
I think it could be. I mean, catching up on chat a little bit, Farah just adds, like, really need more from Dante offensive. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of agree. He hit the 2 threes in the fourth that are awesome, but the dude,
other than that, tonight, he didn't have it much tonight.
No, I mean, if you take that minute and a half out where he hits the 2 threes, the other 34 minutes he scores 5 points. Like, that's tough from a starting guard. Ren asks, without Gobert and Nas, was there any realistic answer for Wemby? I'll be honest. I think the league is just in survival mode. Like, that guy's on-off stuff. That guy's plus-minus. Like, he's a 7-foot guy that has handles and can shoot threes and might be the best defensive player on the planet. Like, I think, this year, next year, you probably still have a chance because he's going to make some boneheaded decisions. He's not, sometimes in the fourth quarter, you even see it where he's being kind of passive, which it worked out tonight. Like, Kendall Johnson hits like a big shot. Wemby doesn't really call for that ball back. I think Fox hit like a pretty nice mid-range. Wemby didn't really call for it on that. So there's certainly there's some things that like at this stage in his career, you can still capitalize on of like, okay, he's a little passive. He hasn't maybe found his voice yet to like demand it like Ant does. But like 2 years from now, he's just going to wreck the league. Like if he's healthy, I don't know what you do. Like,
yeah,
he's a cheat code.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, I don't know. He certainly was impressive tonight. Like I said, and to see them go kind of haymakers there at the end. But he's a guy that he'll get to the line. He can kind of do a little bit of everything. So yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where like Wemby, I know Oklahoma City right now, and I agree with it. Like the next 2 or 3 years, it's Oklahoma City's kind of league, and everyone else is playing catch up. But Wemby in a couple of years, as long as he's healthy, I don't know what you do. Like a lot of these big guys, like even Rudy Gobert, like he's pretty good guarding on the perimeter when he's a foot taller than people, but when he's matched up against somebody that makes him look small, that can just launch threes, it's just, again, I don't know what the answer is other than try and capitalize on some of the mental things and outscore it like a lot. Ren, feel like we would have won that game if it weren't for his insane clutch rebound and easily shooting over guys. Yes, and it's because he's 37 feet tall. Right. Like, it's just the league how it's going to be. Farah, I feel like we're just missing another piece, but I don't know who or what. I'll pose it to you, Heather. I'm sure you've at least seen kind of enough of this team. Like, what do you feel like they might be missing as the deadline's about a month away?
Yeah, that's a good question. I haven't, dug into it too deep as far as what they might need. I think, it's just the generic answer again of the depth and scoring maybe that you need from some of those guys, especially if you have, like Dante, like tonight, like we said, other than kind of those last couple clutch shots, he didn't really have a great scoring night. So things like that. And if someone is having an off night, or if Jaden's having an off night, who do you go to kind of rely on besides Ant, who obviously, other teams are going to be keying in on and trying to stop him from getting his insane shots from beyond the arc too. But I haven't looked at really specifics on what they would need, I guess. But to me, you can never have enough scoring depth and guys that you can rely on to, put up points when maybe there's another guy out, or like tonight, another guy who's out, or a guy who's not having the best night, or gets into foul trouble early. That was something I think earlier on tonight too. There was a little bit of, and not necessarily foul trouble. It just seemed like there was just a lot of calls early, and I know the free throw deficit was, not great for the Wolves either. So I think just the depth to me is huge.
Yeah, I've been pretty bullish the last probably 3 weeks or so of like, I think they need a backup big. But if Johan's just good, that kind of solves that problem. Like, I think if Johan's good, you probably just, all right, that's our backup big, our change of pace, even though he can't shoot threes really well. He's like such a bouncy individual compared to Gobert. The other thing that's kind of on Twitter a lot is point guard. They need a point guard next to Ant. I feel like we kind of talked that one to death, but like Bones has been fine. And Dante is going to play 38 minutes and Ant's going to play 43 in the playoffs. Mike is still capable of playing 10 minutes a night. Like I'm just not worried as much about that. So now I'm firmly in the same camp as you of like, they just need some juice off the bench. Like, if you wanted specific names, the last couple podcasts we've gone over like specific people that the Wolves could target, but like I do agree. Just when someone doesn't have it, it would be really nice to pull a lever and try someone else in there, which they had last year with Nikhil, but they don't have that this year.
Yeah. And then it becomes to like, who do you give up for that to get somebody to? Who do you want? Who are you willing to part with? Which is obviously the name of the game, right? With trades, but what are some of the key pieces there if you're gonna get somebody? Who are the trade chips there that you're willing to part with that are going to be worth it too?
And that's the toughest spot for the Wolves right now is. For everybody that's kind of saying we need a point guard. Well, if you want an all-star point guard, you're giving up Julius and pieces. Like Julius has been an all-NBA caliber player this year. If you want like a mid-level point guard, you got to give up Dante. Dudes in that locker room love Dante. Like that's going to be just a tough one to sell. And then if you want just like a bench scorer, it's probably Rob and Lenny or Rob and TJ, which is, the depth that you drafted to kind of restock the cupboards. Mm-hmm. So like it's tough anywhere. I'll close with your question here and we'll call it for the night. But do you think that they should trade for another star in the next season or two? And who would you like it to be? I mean, I'll add some context. Like this offseason in the NBA, trading is very frustrating and very annoying, and everyone can go blame Norman Powell and the Clippers for this new CBA. But like this upcoming off season, they won't be in any aprons, so they'll just be hard capped. You can take back 25% more cap than you are sending out when you're just over the cap. Cap doesn't really mean anything except for there's just different restrictions. They also have their 2033 first round pick that gets opened up for trade the second the draft is completed. They have their 2032 pick swap that would be open for trade. And as soon as they make a selection of a human being in this year's draft, they have that player to trade as well. So if you're a team, like let's say you're Milwaukee and you're looking at the Wolves and you're going, why in the world would Anthony Edwards want to stay there for the rest of his contract? Like that guy is gone. And you're looking at a Giannis trade. Those 2031 swap and that 2032 swap and that 2033 first rounder is probably appealing. If you think Ant's going to leave, you trade Giannis here. Giannis is going to be like 36 at that point. Like that's an old man in basketball terms. You get a rookie this year. You probably get Rob, Julius, and a bunch of pieces. Like I do think the Wolves will have the ability to make a big swing. It's just kind of Heather, what you were saying, like, do you risk breaking up kind of the vibes of a team to make that type of move?
Right. And I think that's the big question, right? How much of a risk are the Wolves willing to take? Because it is risky, right? You don't know how it's going to work out with the players you part with. But taking a big swing, I think maybe that's that next step that they need. Been in the Western Conference Finals a couple times. What is that key piece? $64,000 question. What is that key piece that's missing to keep you from the next step? I know probably you can't get Oklahoma City's team here. So I know they're just dominating everything. But looking at your own team, what are you willing to give up? And I think sometimes maybe the big swing is worth it. I think, again, going back to what the Wild have done this season, they've kind of gone for that big swing, getting Quinn Hughes, and they gave up 3, really good players, that were key contributors in their lineup to get him here. So, we'll see if that works out, if they're able to get out of the first round this year for the first time in a long time. But I do think,
the Blackhawks aren't the Blackhawks, so maybe they can win something.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. but yeah, I think it has injected so much energy into the fan base too, and I think sometimes that's part of it. You want to see, like, for the Wolves, I think you want to see the momentum continue for the success that they've built up these past few years, where they have gotten, I think just so many more fans on board, and people are really excited about this team and their playoff runs. And I think if there's something you can do to maybe kind of take that next step, or really say, okay, look, we've got Ant here, and we don't want him to just be a superstar kind of by himself with all these other guys that aren't superstars. They're just kind of there. Like, if there's an opportunity to do that and bring somebody else in alongside him, I think they should definitely look into that for sure.
I mean, to kind of sum it up for all, like, I do think if something's going to happen, it'll either be this off season or not 2027, but the year after, when their 2035 pick opens up for trade. Because, like, a team that is going to want those picks, it's going to be like Brooklyn trading Kevin Durant to the Suns, right? Where the Suns are Brooklyn's looking at the Suns and saying, well, like, that looks like it's going to explode. Let's get their picks, because those are going to be more valuable when everybody leaves, because it's toxic. Like, if there's a team out there that has that all NBA caliber player, which, like, Jokic, Shea, Luka are probably untouchable, but, like, they're going to be able to put out a pretty good offer for a Giannis or a Bam Adebayo, or someone that's a little bit more Ant timeline-ish, in quotes, and is maybe an upgrade over, like, some of their individual guys. But I do think it's coming. Like, Tim Connolly has made these contracts, I mean, make too much sense to not have something happen. Spencer, nice to see you back in the chat here. Lenny, you and Johnny Juzang. I'm going to be honest. Johnny's defense in the second quarter it wasn't the reason they gave up like 50 points, but it wasn't great. So I'm guessing Finch just went Lenny because he was like, well, I can't go back to Johnny after that. But that's kind of my take on it. But Heather, I do want to give you space here. We've hit that 40-minute mark, so I'm gonna call the pod. Anything you want to promote, anything you're working on? I know you're covering the Frost. If you want to reiterate where people can find you, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, yeah, like I said, with the Frost, I just started a Substack this season, writtenruleofsports.substack.com, is where I've been posting just kind of all my stories there. Rig Rule is kind of the headline for a lot of my stories. I've been doing just kind of game recaps, even when they're on the road. They have 3 more games coming up at home before the Olympic break. Also cover Wild, and Hockey Day Minnesota is coming up this week. I'm working with Minnesota Hockey Magazine on some stories there. So I'm at HLRULE on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, all that. So give me a follow. And like I said, my website too, heatherrule.com, is where you can find all my stuff. So thanks so much to you, Andrew, for having me on. I appreciate it, and letting me sneak in a little hockey talk as well. But happy to talk basketball with you too. So it was a fun game tonight, as it turned out. So thank you.
I know next to nothing about hockey except for they are on skates. And, happy to learn that the Wild are good. I'm glad they're doing well. And I know the Frost are dominating kind of everything every year. So yep. Minnesota loves hockey. You got to give the people what they want. They want hockey content. Right.
Yeah.
For everyone that popped into the live stream late, as soon as I hit end stream here, this will get posted up on YouTube and live forever on X if you care to rewatch it tonight. If you don't, this will get posted up on Spotify, Apple, anywhere you get your podcast tomorrow, Sunday the 18th at 7 a.m. And we'll be back after every Wolves game. Hopefully, with Utah and the Bulls on the schedule, they'll get a couple easy wins and be right back in the hunt for the 2 seed. But if we've learned anything about the Wolves, it's that they are the most consistently inconsistent team in the league. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you again, Heather. And we'll be back after the Utah game.